Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friday. I almost said Monday. It is April 17th. Can you believe it's already the 17th of this month? It feels like we've been doing this forever. This quarantine, this, what do they call it? Shelter in place. Anybody remember when shelter in place was something that they told you when there was a bad guy on the loose? Now it seems to be like our everyday, what we're doing. So shelter in place, I guess some parts of the country are going to see that in here in the next few days. So I think that will be a great thing going on. It is Friday, so we should celebrate Friday. Hey, come on, that's a big deal. It's good to have a Friday every once in a while, right? And we have, seems all of them when we work from home. But this is To The Point, and I am your host, Eric Mitchell. Before we get to the point with our guest today, let's jump ahead and take a look at what is in the news this midday today. The U.S. stocks, this is great news. The U.S. stocks rallied again today, putting major indexes on track for a second consecutive, I can speak English, consecutive week of gains. And this is actually buoyed on by optimism that parts of the American economy may be reopening in the coming days. And we're seeing that throughout the country. Parts of our nation that haven't been affected by the coronavirus are able to start putting plans together to start spinning up and getting people back to work. And after those numbers that came out yesterday and the week before, with over 22 million unemployed Americans, I believe making up over 10% of our workforce out of work and putting us in these horrible depression numbers, it is great to talk about starting the economy up again. We need it. I know everybody has their viewpoint on it, but we desperately need to get this economy going again. We need to get people back to work. I think people are sick of being at home. You can only paint so many walls in your house. So like I just mentioned, the ranks of America's unemployed have swelled towards those Great Depression, those Great Depression era levels Thursday. And the president did react to the pressure on the economy by him and his team outlining a phased approach to reopening parts of the country. It's a very well thought out plan led by Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, both who I think have done a spectacular job during this crisis. I know people have their own opinions on the two of them. I think Dr. Fauci's done great. If you're not a doctor, or if you're just a Google scientist, and that means you Google things, please don't give me your 2 cents on social media. You are far from an expert. So let's just let it stick to the experts. It's a great plan. Basically phases out after 14 days, we can reopen things. I know how desperately everybody wants to attend church, go out. I kiddingly made a joke last night that remember the days where we used to wait in line and see how long the wait was at a restaurant, and now you do it at a really crappy grocery store? I can't wait till we can go out in public again. I can't wait to go spend some time with these small businesses. Good news, though, is that the president, I know earlier in the week, the president did have some issues with the governors that were saying, we're going to do our own thing. He did say that the decisions will be based by the governor, so state by state. That is terrific. But the bright spot is New York, which has been hands down the most lethal spot in the United States, reported more signs of encouragement with drops in daily numbers of deaths statewide and the overall count of people in the hospital. Governor Cuomo said, we've controlled the beast. He did extend the lockdown in New York State to be till May 15th. Oof. That just sounds horrible. I know if you're stuck at home in New York, you're like, dude, I don't want to stay home that long. That is crazy. In sports news, the WNBA is having their draft virtually, of course, today. And Oregon Duck and probably the greatest college basketball player of all time from the Oregon Ducks, Sabrina Ionescu, is predicted to be the number one pick. We also found out yesterday that Denver Broncos Pro Bowl linebacker, the man himself, Von Miller, tested positive to the coronavirus, yet he says he's doing fine and has the symptoms, but he's working through it and isn't very concerned. And also, the big news is this Sunday, if you are a basketball fan, ESPN is premiering The Last Dance, the 10-part Michael Jordan documentary. which will, of course, be about Jordan, and lots of press coming out showing, we talked about this yesterday about Jordan and how people are kind of judging Mike. This is going to be great. This premieres starting Sunday. So if you're at home, at least you know for 10 days you have something fun to watch. It premieres on Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern on our friends at ESPN. And finally, just some words of positivity, and I know we need to hear this. I mentioned Laughter Saves Lives Foundation yesterday on my broadcast, how they did this amazing, I don't know if you'd call it I don't want to say like Jerry Lewis telethon, because it wasn't a telethon, it was a laughathon done online, amazing organization. They did this amazing event. And what they were able to do so far is raise money to buy over 4,000 N95 masks. And those are going to be donated to first responders and healthcare professionals, Long Island and New York City. That's what come on. Kudos for those folks. It's still going on. If you want to help this organization, go to LaughterSavesLives.org, hit the donate button, and you can help give these much needed masks to our first responders and healthcare providers in the New York and tri-state areas. As you may or may not have heard yesterday from our guest, Oz Sultan, it's still scary on the ground. Still a lot of sick outs with NYPD and the fire department being pushed to the brink. There's a lot of people there. Density is not low like the rest of us on the West Coast. They are on top of each other. And if you could donate, all the support will help. Remember, go to LaughterSavesLives.org. Okay, let's jump in to today's show. I'm actually running on time, which is amazing. I want to bring our first guest on. I've had the pleasure to be a guest on his show a number of times. Rory Sauter is an amazing national radio host and entrepreneur, and he's going to come on. We're going to talk a little bit about politics, what's going on, what we've seen in these press conferences, and make sure when you're done, you start following his show, because it's one of the best radio shows on there. No offense to Joe Piscopo, who I love dearly. Roy's show is one of the top shows in the nation that you should be listening to when you're not tuning in at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern to watch our show. So without further ado, here's my good buddy, Rory.
Eric Mitchell, how are you?
I'm good, bud. How are you doing?
Doing very well. First and foremost, I just want to say it's a huge honor to be on your new show, and I'm a big fan of yours. I always love when you come on my program. You bring great value, great insight. You're doing a lot of amazing things in the world. I love everything, you're doing for our veterans, for our country. You're a very, very talented individual. So it's truly an honor.
Thank you, my friend. Oh, wow. I'm like, you're going to get me verklempt, and I'm going to start crying now. I mean,
And by the way, I really appreciate your kind words as well. And thank you. Thank you so much.
You have a great show, my friend. And that's what we need to make sure people know about. That's why I'm bringing guests on this show. And we're just doing that. Give me 2 seconds. I need to adjust something, because hold on 1 second. Okay. There we go. Sorry, we were having technical difficulties that there was a shine coming onto the monitor. We can't have that.
No worries. How's your Friday going?
It's going good. I've been listening to your show all week. I wanted to get your feedback. We've got a lot going on in the media, right? We see these.
It's crazy.
And yesterday, I don't know if you caught the show yesterday, we had the amazing Oz Sultan on, who GOP out of Harlem, amazing Muslim American who worked with the Trump campaign in 2016. Is heavily involved in the GOP in New York State. And he talked a little bit about what's going on in the political world. And then we had the amazing Josh Phillip on from Epoch Times, who had his documentary come out last week, over 11 million views. We were talking about how
I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was beyond anything. It was great, fantastic, stellar, really exposed and put everything into light, perspective of what we've been missing and what we've been distracted with. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. So
go ahead,
let me ask you.
Cut you off. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good, bud. Let me ask you this. One of the big things that we're seeing kind of coming out of this, and it's just ironic. What do you think about these people who are downplaying the Chinese? I mean, when it comes to China, we cut them off, right? I mean, do we agree that it's time to cut the dependency, the nuzzling to the bosom of China? We could go find business elsewhere, that we can go deal with at least allies that have our back and aren't going to cut us off or send us the virus, or like China's been caught doing, selling defective product. I mean, this is a scary world. You watch this documentary, and now mainstream media is now picking it up. What do you think about the chances? You're a small business owner also. What do you think the chances are that we could cut off our dependency on China?
Well, I think we're in the right position in terms of leadership and the person to do it, to hold them accountable and, put us on a totally new scale and new level is obviously Trump. He defeated them in ways that no leader has ever accomplished or fulfilled ever. I mean, he put them in a, what was it, like a 50 or 60-year low in their economy? I mean, they had one of the worst economies that they've ever endured. And, we've, for the longest time, we've had past politicians, presidents, all these people that have been owned by special interests or dirty donors. And, they've had an agenda, and it wasn't for us. And, we see how Trump is basically self-funding, runs things himself. We've never really seen a candidate who, is with the no filter and just, how he does things. He's very authentic, very genuine. And he does, and what I love about him, he's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. He's pro-policy. He's pro-America. And, this whole China thing, he's been talking about China since the 80s. He's been in interviews since the 80s saying China is ripping us off left and right. And we give them all this money. We depend on them for all these different trade products and all these different situations. And, it's about time it stops. And, Trump's whole agenda, his whole narrative and his promises were, we want to build stuff in the USA. We want to make America the place for manufacturing. We want to make America the place where people, get all their products, not China. I mean, you look at the way China builds their stuff too. It's not sufficient. I mean, a lot of it's not legitimate. It's cheap. People go there for cheap labor. That's why they get stuff done there. I mean, stuff in the US still in a lot of ways costs a lot of money. Trump's brought down prices significantly in a lot of different areas and industries, but I mean, there's still work to do. And I see a lot of improvement. I mean, for instance, India is one of those countries that I think could be our new China in certain ways. We see the, however you pronounce the medicine, is it hydrochloroquine, whatever.
You're asking a Marine to pronounce things. It's your first mistake, so don't ask me to do
right,
that.
Yeah,
so I can't even spell it.
Well, yeah, I know. Whatever's treating the corona people right now, India basically just supplied us with a ton of those medications, no problems. And we're seeing how China is holding a lot of stuff over our head because, they're so used to getting away with murder. They're so used to, manipulating our currency. They're so used to, not paying their fair share. And it's one of those things where you love seeing for the first time in history how, they're facing the music. They're really strongly getting exposed along with, the Democrats who are coddling them and are trying to favor China. Because we all see how a lot of these politicians, and it goes on both sides. I'm not going to say it's just the Democrats, but they have a lot of connections with foreign entities. And I think that's a big problem is why China has some of the power it does. And you have all these people in bed with them, all these politicians. I mean, it's bad, man. It's really bad right now. And I'll tell you what, this, I believe, was planned. I don't think this happened out of the ordinary. I mean, China felt so lost. They felt so, useless and defeated by Donald Trump after this whole trade war. And you saw how much money they lost. I mean, like I said, their economy was suffering bad. So they, in some way, shape, or form, I felt like they had to retaliate. And their main objective, obviously, was directed at the U.S., but they didn't want to make it look too obvious, which is why they're used to killing their own people. It's nothing new. They kill millions of their people every year. It's communist China. But, they killed some of their own people, and then it made its way in the U.S., and then it obviously went to other countries. Maybe it was in other countries before the U.S., but my point is, everybody in the world looks at the U.S. first. If the U.S. is not doing well, if the U.S. is struggling, then everybody else is struggling. That's how I look at it in a lot of ways. And China, I think, totally had this plan. I mean, stuff like this just doesn't happen. How the hell does a whole economy shut down? I've never seen this in my 29 years. I've never seen it. We've gone through swine flu. We've gone through Ebola. We've gone through AIDS. We've gone through all these different things. Has the economy ever been shut down? I mean, I know we have to take proper protocol and extra precautions, but I'm very skeptical, and I don't like people like Dr. Fauci. I don't trust him. I don't trust people like was it Dr. Burke, the female female's name. I don't recall her name. I think that's her name.
Perfect.
And, these people are in bed with people like Bill Gates. The vaccinations, they want to do mandatory vaccinations. They want to, I've heard various things. And Bill Gates is known, and I'm not saying he hasn't done some good things, but he's also known for testing a lot of his products overseas and being involved with a lot of these labs. And we saw that he's one of the main people. He's a part owner of the World Health Organization. He's one of the main people there. And we just defunded their situation, which I think is great. And you just see the CDC. I mean, Bill Gates is involved with that. And and I'm not blaming this on any one person, but I think there's a lot of elites in bed together. And I think the fix was in. I mean, they tried Mueller to take down Trump. They tried Ukraine to take down Trump. They tried all these different things. They wanted to impeach him for stuff he said on Twitter. Nothing really sticked. And it's election season. Stuff always comes out. We had the best economy we've ever seen ever in the history of politics. I mean, I just can't see any other. I mean, how does all of a sudden, it's weird, isn't it, Eric? Do I have a point here? I mean, we had the best economy ever. Lowest black unemployment, lowest Asian unemployment, lowest female unemployment, lowest Hispanic unemployment, highest stock market ever. We were winning in every single way, and nobody's ever won trade against China. I couldn't believe it when Trump did it. I'm like, wow. This guy is something out of heaven. This guy's a miracle worker. This guy, I've never seen anything like it. And you know what? I say this on my show all the time, and I'll say it again. He's delivered on 80% of his promises within 3 years. Again, that's 80% within 3 years. Most presidents, after 8 years, don't even fulfill 10%. I mean, this guy is something. And you know what? It just goes to show what we've been missing, what we've really been missing. And how everything's been lacking in DC. And I mean, just the way he's exposing things. I mean, he's really getting to the bottom of everything.
I absolutely agree with you, especially when it comes to, I mean, the one thing I've always been impressed by President Trump is he's actually, we always talk growing up, I'm in my 40s, and I remember every politician makes all these promises, but yet doesn't really deliver. President Trump, I don't always love what he says on Twitter. I'm not a fan of that.
I wish you would hold back sometimes. Yeah. I think it's a little, much, but I absolutely.
It's a little crazy how much he goes on his little tangents, but I get it. You're allowed to do it. You're the leader of the free world, President Obama. I didn't like him being on all the late night shows, but I mean, that's just the world we live in with technology. But we have to give it. The facts are there. We've had a strong economy. We've been able to have meetings. I mean, people are like, oh my God, North Korea isn't, but I mean, President Trump had a meeting with them. That was the first time since Nixon, I believe, that we had ever had a face-to-face with those knuckleheads. And everybody's like, oh, they have this and that. And I'm like, look, if we flew a C-141 full of whoppers over there, those folks would surrender and worship the ground America walks on. So let's not think that some dude with a really bad bowl cut that executes people is the guy that I'm going to take my leadership advice from. And they're like, oh, he hangs out with dictators. Again, like you and I've talked about on your show. Well, whose plane came flying over and landed at JFK full of over 1 million supplies that we didn't have to make sure was nasty with coronavirus? Or, as I love that Josh in Epoch Times calls it the CCP virus. That's even better than the Chinese virus. I love punching communists. There's nothing better than that. It's been great having you on, Roy. We'll have to have you on, make you a regular coming on. It's good to get your feedback and insight into politics. You talk about it all the time. Right. Before we have you go, tell folks where they can find you and listen to you on the regular.
Absolutely. Well, it's really been a pleasure being with you. You can catch my show Tuesday and Thursday to 10 p.m. Eastern to midnight. 70 online platforms, 25 countries. The Rory Sauter Show. Just type my name in on Google and you can find it all over the place. I'll be starting at Salem Radio Network on May 3rd. So mark your calendars. A very big, just a huge opportunity. I mean, you've got people like Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Larry Elder, Sebastian Gorka, Hugh Hewitt, all these big notable influences that record there. So just the opportunity of a lifetime. And you can also, if you ever need an app built, my main, obviously, business is I'm a mobile app builder. So if you ever want any apps, we charge a fraction of the cost compared to anywhere else. And you can visit getyourappbuilt.com. Again, that's getyourappbuilt.com. LifeFlip.com. I've been doing this 8 years, guys. I love technology. I can help you with anything you guys need. This is into the future. Tech is more evolved than ever before. And Eric, I want to ask you before I go, what did you make of all this whole Hollywood thing? The shadows. I mean, what did you take away from it? Because I'll tell you, I
actually don't know what you're talking about. You caught me without the. I've been sorry. I've got new interns that are in the house all the time now. They double as my children. Right. So some of my news. I mean, I've been honestly. I turned on some of the news. I haven't heard anything about this.
Talking about the documentary from last week about the guy you had on.
Oh yes, Josh. Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking about Hollywood. My brain. It's Friday. I probably should have bourbon on it. I thought it was a great documentary. I'm a huge fan of Josh. Been interviewed by Josh. Epoch Times, probably one of the best bipartisan media outlets out there. I know we didn't deep dive into it, and I would never do that to a professional journalist on air. But I do know the Chinese puppets that are NBC have attacked Epoch Times for the way that they slant and go after the Chinese, the CCP, go against those folks and actually tell the truth about what's going on. I mean, obviously it's working. I shouldn't kid about people being firebombed, but their offices were firebombed in Hong Kong during that. And obviously that was swept under the rug. Fighting for democracy, it's a beautiful thing. This isn't a left or a right thing. Our country was built on democracy. As a veteran of our country, I find democracy to be something that we should all hold, no matter who you vote for. Mm-hmm. And that should be the pulpit that all of these candidates stand up on and put America first, because that is the most important thing. And that's what we're going to need, no matter who you're looking for in a leader, whether it's we elect Donald Trump here in November, which I generally believe we will. Yeah. But 4 years from then, how are we going to recover? Because this isn't going to be an overnight recovery. I'm sorry, I don't live in politician dreamland. I live in a place called reality. And it's hard. And I mean, and that's why we're doing this show, is to bring folks on like you to bring it up. And then our next guest coming on, who to me has been my go-to to learn about how to work at home better. But Rory, real fast, that view behind you looks familiar to me. Is that beautiful Palm Desert or Palm Springs?
It absolutely is. How'd you know?
We visit there. We have our good family and friends. They're in Palm Desert, over by the In-N-Out. I can tell you, I know where that is.
Well, great place. I love Palm Springs. I've been coming here all my life, and it really is just such a profound and special place. And there's really, not too many areas like it. I mean, it's awesome. And I'll tell you, it's quiet right now. Not too many people out on the streets. But real quick, what do you think happened with the whole China thing? What's your theory? What's your speculation?
I'm undecided. I'll say that I believe that between the two stories that I've heard, I can lean towards the accidental as a positive spin on something, or it was used as a biochemical weapon, which I don't want to think of it that way, because that's some sick, twisted stuff that my Marine brain is like. That's when you start making people glow in the dark for doing that to the globe. That's just not cool to do. I don't care how angry you are. I don't remember what our body count is today, but over 30,000 Americans have lost their lives, over 4,000 yesterday. I'm going to hope that this was a tragic accident, that someone accidentally took this out and hit the community. I just wish for the truth. Yeah. That's all I actually asked for. I just wish politicians would focus on, get us the honest to God truth, stop with the tinfoil hat speculations, stop with the, info wars, going crazy kind of stuff. Just give me the honest to God truth so I know what's going on. Because those of us who have children, we want to be able to explain this to them, much like we had to explain 9/11 to our children. We have to explain why this craziness goes on. And 30,000 lives, I mean, the disgusting fact was 3 weeks we spent arguing over the body count. And when it passed 9/11, then it was like, oh, this is really bad. And I'm like, so 9/11 is our focal point. But the 3,500 people who died on Pearl Harbor, I guess their body count, I guess you only have a longevity scale of how many decades you can go with a body count before we have to one-up it with a disease or a terrorist attack. So to me, it's just tragic, and we need to be on the positive. So I'm going to lean towards, I believe it was accidental, because I just don't believe the Chinese are this organized. I know there's a lot of them, but even they kind of acted like the Russians did, or the Soviets did back in the day. No knock on my Russian friends. But the Soviets, how they behaved in '86 when Chernobyl took place, the whole cover up, like, oopsie. I'm like, dude, you're glowing in the dark from the space shuttle. Okay. Trust me. We know what happened. So yeah, that's what you said.
And I don't want to believe it either. I don't want to believe that any sort of malicious activity was occurring here. It's just, there's so many mixed signals. There's so many things that we don't know. There's so many different, it's crazy. But last thing before you go, I feel like I'm interviewing you, but as an entrepreneur like myself, how do you think the markets are going to rebound? What do you see as the outcome in terms of, you see this as a slight disruption? Do you see this as a long, like, how do you
It's actually funny that you asked this. This is a question that it's going to our next guest. So I see her in the green room. So be prepared. This is a question that's heading your way. I think we will. Number one, like I said, I love America. As you can tell behind, well, I don't have my camera tilted the right way. There is a beautiful American flag behind me. Right. I believe our country is resilient. Last night, I went live and I took it down because I was probably in a condition where I shouldn't be live streaming. But I posed the question, how many entrepreneurs over the last 4 to 6 weeks have built something new? And that's why I'm having our next guest on, who's going to be our regular on Fridays, to talk about how we can all work from home and really knock out. I mean, people can build things faster than ever before. If you think about it, the last three years at the end of World War II, all of our boys came home, which are now known as our baby boomers, and all these amazing things were created, right? But it took a long time for them to get done. And then you look at the last 2 decades and think about it. I'm holding the latest version of the iPhone. We all remember what the first version of the iPhone looked like. And we all remember, it's probably, Roy, you don't because you're a little youngin', but what cell phones used to look like back in the day.
Oh, of course, they're huge. Yeah.
Yeah. You remember? I mean, Don Johnson in Miami Vice walking around with like this man purse with a cell phone in. I think our economy will recover where Americans were resilient. We're the hands down the best country in there. You can argue with me left or right. I don't care. We're all Americans at the end of the day. That's what I love about our country. We come together even through our differences. We adapt, overcome, and we're the best. So I believe that we'll do it. It may be a long haul, but like everything, to be good at it, to be the best at it, it takes a little bit to get done. So Roy, I thank you. I got to run. I'll chat with you soon. Let's connect soon and have a good weekend, bud.
All right. God bless. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too, bud. Talk to you soon. So let me take this off the screen so you don't have to look at it. Our next guest, who I'm going to apologize for totally making her wait in the green room, is my good friend and technology, digital strategist, PR strategist, digital amazing person who's going to come on. She has been on Twitter, just killing it with sharing amazing devices and apps that you can use to help you with your work at home. So I'm going to bring my friend up here, Miss Sarah Evans, to join us. Sarah, how are you today?
How are you?
Long-winded. Everybody just goes. Roy's a talker. He just,
That's okay. That's okay. I may have some crying in the background. We've got as is the case with every live stream I've done, we have a potty emergency.
Oh, I have those sometimes too, so it's okay. I mean, sometimes potty emergencies are okay. Dogs barking in the background, so that's good that you're here. Oh wow, you do have a potty emergency. I love it.
Well, she's playing it up now that she knows that we're on. She said, "Are you on?"
Oh, of course. Got to lay down on the ground. Oh, victim. I'm a victim. My mother just does lives instead of talking to me.
I've even offered chocolate extra. Maybe I'll even order ice cream.
Oh. I'm going to start crying if we get ice cream.
This might be major. Watch my wall for 1 second. Let me make sure she's okay. This is the actual working from home.
I love it. I'll just go back to woo. So with Rory, while we wait for our guest hey, this is live streaming at its best. One of the great things that we've talked about when it comes to dealing with America is our resiliency. And I think this is why we built this show, is to talk about resiliency and to make us stronger. So every guest that will be coming on our show, they're going to give you some positive information, whether it be a community they represent or technology or their profession, where they can come in and give you tips and tricks. So just like this guest, I want you to pay attention to what Sarah's going to talk about. She's got some amazing recommendations. So I'm going to bring her back.
Whew. Thank you.
There's
so sorry.
There's a lot.
I know this is a lot.
That's a lot. Hold on, now it's not working. Okay, you're not Matt Kuchera. I can tell you you're not. But let's jump right into this. So you've been on social, and you have an amazing resume. We don't need to jump into that. People can go look you up on your website that I'll have listed on here. Hello. We have 2 guests. I'm sorry I didn't get your profile picture on.
It's a bonus.
It's a bonus. Hello. But, you've been sharing apps and software for folks who aren't used to working at home to help their day. tell us how you came about that and what you're finding works best for you, obviously as a mother, dealing with running a successful business, working with your clients, and finding the best ways and best tools for folks. I don't think we're leaving our homes anyway, even from what I've seen from what the president said yesterday, and all the recommendations are, if you can work from home, please still maintain working from home for at least the next 30 to 45 days, so we can still control this. So what are some tips and tricks that you could give to folks who are still 4 weeks into working from home and are probably like at their wits' end?
Sure. I mean, listen, I don't have it all figured out, as you can tell. There are little humans here who need love and support. So if I have to walk away and do things, they obviously have to know they're my top priority. And I can tell at 3 years old, there's acting out that happens because she doesn't always understand what mom's doing. We actually do have an office that we shut down proactively. Eric, I think I was talking to you the day we actually closed it down, before all of the social distancing truly went into place. So moving everything home. What's that? Oh, that's a sad face. This is the sad face. So we actually did have to close everything down. But for the past 10 years, we work remotely with our clients, and most of our team is still remote. So the reason I started sharing and offering resources and tips and advice is because we've already been doing it for so long. And I know how overwhelming it can be, especially from a managerial or leadership position. There are many leaders who believe they have to have that face-to-face communication in order to be successful or to actually lead or manage. So a lot of them are feeling disenfranchised. In addition to the PR work that we've been doing, we also created some training and resources for companies who are now remote and talking about their biggest points of frustration. Ironically, one of the biggest things was simply moving from a desktop to a laptop. Many people didn't realize they were frustrated because of the lack of real estate visually they had, even simple wrist movements. They're used to an external mouse or external keyboard. So we're working with companies just to figure out the right setup for their employees, getting ergonomically set up computer stations and chairs. And then there's the whole host of virtual and digital tools that they need.
See, that's crazy. I mean, if you think about it, I've been working remote since I've been in tech. I mean, and this is years before we even started LifeFlip Media. So when people, I remember my wife, she was like, why is everybody making a big deal? We've been remote for a long time. This is just part of the day to day. So it's funny to see people, and it's good. I mean, that's what I've loved about your posts and everything that you're sharing. You have your lineup's still on Product Hunt, right? So are you?
What's that?
You still have that link on Product Hunt with all of your list of product or apps?
Oh yeah, I think they're all there. I'll have to go look.
Well, I'm going to share that in post so everybody can go find it.
Oh, good. Okay.
But what do you think? I mean, do you think, and this is the last question, then we're going to jump, and you're going to be back on next Friday, so that means we can continue on. But what do you think about work from home? You work with some very big brands. Do you think brands are like, this is a pretty good idea? It's easier for our workforce to be home, saves a lot of money. I know I've seen some other big tech companies make the decision not to go back to their offices and actually free up that budget for other things.
I think we'll absolutely see a mashup of companies decide to either stay remote or have more practices in place for a better work-life balance. In fact, I was talking to a friend earlier this week who said, this is my time. She had such horrible work hours. She said, this is my time to make a case and show that I can be productive and effective from home, so that when we go back or things resolve, I have a case to say, listen, I can still do this. I can still manage. You didn't see a deficiency or a reduction in any of my output. So for those who say they, or think they really like the difference, they can actually track what they're doing and use it as a best practice case study if the business itself isn't proactive about offering this as an alternative. And one of the best things you can do if you're a great work from home person for your company and they weren't used to it, put together your tools, your suite of things that are working, and share them as best practices and tools for other people on your team so you can become a leader in that space. Maybe create a position or job for yourself that didn't exist.
I love that advice. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. You are our tech expert for our work from home expert, and people are going to need it. We're all kind of in the struggle bus together. Like I've been saying, we're all rowing together, and it's good to have folks like you doing a little bit extra rowing for us to go find apps. I know I've leaned on your tweets. I'm going to share your Twitter on here in post, but tell folks before you go how to get a hold of you if they want to follow you.
Well, they have to go through my 3-year-old, number one.
Absolutely. I would go through your 3-year-old too.
Including potty emergencies, but on Twitter, it's at PR Sarah Evans.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah, so much. Enjoy your weekend, and tell your family we all said hello, and I'll see you again soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So here we are. We're going to be heading into our next guest, who I'm actually, I got to admit, I'm kind of excited that he's coming on. He's a good dear friend, Air Force veteran. We won't pick on him too much because he was in that branch. We all can't be perfect and join manly branches. Somebody has to do the almost join the military branches. He knows I'm giving a hard time. Somewhere there's an Air Force person like typing hate mail towards a Marine. Yes, I know we're jarheads and all those other things. But Matt Kuchera is a good buddy, amazing podcaster, father, husband, put together a podcast called Vet Pivot, which I'm a huge fan of. Amazing interviews, thought leaders. If you're trying to figure out or support, when you use the phrase, I want to support the military or support veterans, Matt's podcast can definitely help you go find folks who are doing amazing things. He's interviewing leaders of industry who are helping getting folks hired, helping with your video needs, you name it, he's interviewing them. So I wanted to bring him on to kind of give us a pulse of what's going on in the veteran community as we start next week on Thursdays, being first responder and veterans episodes only on Thursday here on To The Point. So let's get to the point with my good bud, Matt Kuchera. Hey, Matt.
Hey, what's going on, Eric? How are you?
It's Friday, bud.
It's Friday.
Every day kind of feels like a Sunday afternoon, but I always look forward to the weekends, at least.
Oh, same here, man. Same here. It's I thank you so much for having me on the show, and thank you to the folks that are watching. Eric's a great guy, and he's been on the podcast before, as is his wife. And I love what LifeFlip Media does, and I love the message you're putting out there, Eric. It's great stuff.
Thank you. Okay, you're the second guest that had to give me a compliment today. You guys are catching me. I can't cry with my makeup on, man. Come on now. But no, seriously, thank you very much. Your podcast is one that I discovered 6-7 months ago. Right when you guys started, I was amazed by the guest you started out with. And I'm a huge fan of Natalie Olivier, and she was on. Huge fan. So having her on the show kind of was like, wow. Okay, they're legit. I don't know why having Natalie on a podcast makes you like, you're legitimate, but she's kind of everywhere, being that DC face of hiring veterans. I mean, talk about her business coming out of nowhere, and she's literally the leader in getting veterans hired. We're going to have to make her a guest on the show, but let's talk about, so we're sitting here. We already had a veteran unemployment problem. Veterans have kind of suffered when we transition out. And that's a whole topic we'll start talking about next Thursday, talking about vet transition. But what have you seen with the folks that you're talking to? How are veterans holding up, the veteran community, veteran brands, veteran leaders? How are they holding up through this very, we have, 22 million unemployed Americans currently?
Sure.
How are those folks holding up?
To be honest with you, I think it's no different than it was before Corona, in that this isn't something that impacts just the military. It's impacted everybody that's trying to get a job right now, with hiring freezes while companies try to figure out what can they manage to bring on board and what can they not afford to bring on board. This is changing pretty rapidly and goes day by day. Now, for the veteran, I would argue that it may be changing some minds on, let me sign some extension paperwork so I could stay in while things clear up. That's definitely something that I see. The other part of this is that the gates will eventually open for companies. But there's jobs that are out there right now, and someone like Natalie or Kevin O'Brien are really, really good at helping people navigate those waters and figure out what companies are hiring actively and how can you bring them in to your organization. I will say that, once this Corona thing clears up and things get a little more certain for the companies, and we can start planning going forward on who to bring in or how many we can bring in, that's when you're going to start seeing the floodgates kind of open up. And it really behooves a company to be able to hire a veteran. There's the tax benefits, there's the the loyal employee that you're going to gain from that, the soft skills that you gain from that, and in more technical roles, you're going to get someone that's really experienced in solving complex problems across the world. So it's not necessarily COVID impacting the military. I think it's COVID impacting the hiring landscape in total.
And that was a great answer. I mean, you and I both know about veteran transition and how difficult it is to find a job. But here's my question, and we don't have a lot of time because we've gone long on this episode, but
sure.
You're coming back on. Well, if I could get you to commit to every Thursday, I will.
Let's do it.
I love that. Okay, you're our regular contributor on Thursdays moving forward, so you will finish out every Thursday show moving forward. But I just want to make sure I give you some time, bud. You deserve it. And the next guest, well, I know the next guest really well, so I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
and she likes you, so she'll understand if I give you like an extra minute or two to do this. But what can we have a large audience, obviously, and as we know, not everybody's a veteran.
Right.
We know that. So what can folks do when we hear, I want to help, I want to support a veteran brand? What is your recommendation? Will you hear that? Where do you send folks? Where would you, besides going to your podcast, which you should absolutely go to, where do you think, what do you tell folks when it's like, hey, I want to support veteran businesses, I want to hire vets? Where should folks go look?
Sure. I mean, obviously, naturally, I'm going to send people to Vet Pivot so that they can check us out, and we'll put you in touch with the different entities that we work with. I would say if it's something about bringing someone into supporting veterans, it would depend on the industry, but there are so many veterans right now that are doing outstanding things. If you need someone in the, marketing space, or if you need someone, you go to a LifeFlip, if you need someone that's in the, internal communication space, someone like a Rich Cardona can really help you out in that internal communications within your company and how to communicate to your employees. I can run the gamut if you need people to bring in, like we had said before, Natalie or Kevin. So it just kind of depends on what you're trying to gain from working with veterans or supporting veteran-owned businesses. There's so many out there that are really killing it in their mission and leading the pack. But it's funny that you ask this, because I really do want to help folks do that. We send folks to ownyourpivot.com/welcome. And that's really where that kind of begins the conversation on, okay, you want to support veterans, you want to bring more veterans into your company. Here's where we start the conversation. And this is how we can help you do what you're trying to do.
Awesome. Hey, that was another great answer. My guests get really good answers. When I ask these tough questions, you guys deliver. I love it. So I hate to cut you off, but
no, it's fine.
I have people like, Eric, you need to try to stay on time. You've been over. I went over 35 minutes on episode 1. Show number 2, it was 7 minutes. So I promised I was like,
you're scaling down.
This is an hour show. For a Marine. It's like, what is the time schedule? So Matt, what is the best way for folks? Obviously, subliminally, you have that great branding. I love the A-10 Warthog, the best aircraft ever designed. Yeah. Don't tell the Marine Corps I said that about our aircraft, because the Warthog, hands down, you hear that, you pucker up a little bit if you're on the receiving end of that thing, because life's not going to be good for you. So how can folks get a hold of you and listen to your show?
Absolutely. So you can listen to Vet Pivot anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We're on every medium. If you want to connect with me, you can go to @VetPivot on any of our social media outlets. Or if you want to really get drilled down into the Vet Pivot mission, go to ownyourpivot.com/welcome.
I love it. Well, thanks, bud, for coming on.
Thank you.
You've been in our thoughts and prayers since the beginning of this coronavirus, thinking of you and your family. And I can't wait for us to get together in New York and have another amazing dinner so we can discuss Fat Batman a little bit more. Our favorite listeners right now are what? If you can figure out Fat Batman, put it in the comments. But we had a dinner, which feels like it was last year we had this dinner, but it was only like 12 weeks ago.
I know. It's crazy.
I mean, think about that. And the whole, like, we were in New York. Like,
yes. How much has the world changed in the last 12 weeks?
I was thinking, because you were coming on like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like it's just alarming. So people are like, what? But anyways, we need to have that dinner. We'll get your wife this time. And the 4 of us can go out to dinner, and maybe we'll come up with Fat Aquaman. I don't know. I don't think there's ever been a Fat Aquaman. I'm not calling Jason Momoa fat by any means. So I'm scared of that, man.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Fat, or what is it? Freaking too skinny Spider-Man. Or bad Spider-Man. Anyways, we'll figure out. Lucie comes up with the better one. So, but I thank you. We'll see you next Thursday. I'll chat with you offline. Have a great weekend, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, brother. You too.
No problem. So here we are. We're going on to our final guest. As I kiddingly said earlier, looking forward to this next guest. She is an amazing business owner. She is the CEO of LifeFlip Media, and she is an amazing mother to 4 wonderful children. I don't know if she thinks they're wonderful all times, but she's been around 2 of them for the last 6 weeks nonstop because we've all been together. And she runs, she's a health and wellness motivator. Don't mix that with a coach. So she's inspiring women all across the country with her workouts, and she works for an amazing apparel. She's a director for a brand called Zaya. You can go check it out. We're going to talk to her about that. Amazing fitness brand that you could support with amazing women that are just out creating. They also have a female CEO. So I'd love to get her on the show for our Founders Friday. So let's bring Lucie Mitchell onto the show. Hello there.
Hello.
Hello. Fancy seeing you here.
I know.
So here we are. We'll start off with one. I know we had a mom on earlier with, 3-year-old running around. So you see the struggles out there. There's kids that are sitting at home. Their schedules are very light. This remote learning, let's face it, it's basically 3 days of work for only 2 to 3 hours a day. What do you think parents could be doing to kind of keep their kids going, right? We can't just put them in front of an Xbox while we work. So we don't want the Xbox to be a babysitter. If you have older kids, what are you telling the women that you speak to on the regular and your amazing stories that you're doing on your Instagram, which I want you to plug later? But what are you telling them to get through this? I know that you help a lot of young mothers. So what's your advice to those mothers?
Well, first of all, I think that everybody needs to just take this with a little bit of grace. What I've told a lot of moms, whether they're moms of young kids or like myself, where my youngest is 13 and, I've got a 13, almost 16-year-old at home. It's not so much about the changes that I've had to make in my schedule, but also the changes that they have. You are dealing with kids that the most that they had a schedule. They had a strict regimen where it's they knew that they got up in the morning, that they had their breakfast, that they tied their shoes, that they went to school, they sat at their desk, and, from 8 to 9 was math, 9 to 10 was, reading. Then they had recess. They had their own structure. And now they've come home and that structure is gone. And it's up to us now as parents to either recreate that structure or, fly by the seat of our pants. It's not our jobs to become mommy teacher. It's first of all, it's our jobs to make sure that we're making sure that psychologically and emotionally that they're okay. If that means that we have to work it into our schedules, I work from home anyways, that's what we do. So I already built it into my schedule to work out. I was just having a virtual PTA meeting the other night, and this is for the high school. And one of the high school moms was saying, to the principal, so what are we doing to ensure that our kids are moving? And I said, what are you talking about? My kids are moving. Well, what are yours doing? Mine's not moving. I said, well, are you making him move? His body, hey, get off the Xbox 30 minutes. And this is a high schooler. So I think a lot of it is taking responsibility and then also stepping back and realizing, yes, our kids do need some sort of a movement. And what we do is that dancing, putting on silly music and dancing. Maybe not everybody has an Xbox or a Wii in their home, but you all have phones or radios or TVs that you can put some silly music on and move your bodies. Do you have pets that need dogs that they need to be walked? And sometimes it's just play wrestle. It's just thinking outside the box. And I think that that's what I'm telling everyone is it doesn't have to be 15 push-ups and a bunch of air squats and, an actual PE regimen. It's just about making sure that they're taking a break from technology, because if they take a break with you, you're also taking a break. Because honestly, that's what we all need too.
I love that. Taking a break is key for everybody. I think you have to almost take more breaks now than ever before, because it does beat down on you whether you're watching the news or not. There's a lot. We're going on, 30 plus days of being the shelter in place. Granted, it's not like a national order, so we don't have to stay in, but you're looked at funny, especially when when we go grocery shopping, I wear a mask and you wear gloves. So we look like the confused couple, but there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe I don't want to, one breathes and the other one touches things. But here's a question.
I don't want to mess up my makeup. I don't want to mess up my makeup.
Yeah, I don't want to mess up your makeup. I don't want to shave, and I don't know why I'm bothering wearing the mask. But let me ask you this. As someone who is a mom, a business owner, we're talking about these mental breaks. What are you what's your advice to folks who maybe a little bit younger than us, or maybe older than us, how to handle all of this? It's almost like a mental beatdown. I know I interview a lot of veterans, and we're like, hey, we've been deployed. We got this, right? And you see that from like USAA has these great commercials talking about how first responders, a large majority of the media, this kind of bad news is just kind of embedded into our brain cells. But folks like you didn't serve, there's nothing wrong with that. What is your advice to folks like to get through this? I mean, it's a beatdown. It's all right to cry, right? I mean, it's all right to have these mental moments where you're just like defeated and you need to go put yourself in a corner.
Well, my slogan lately has been drinking a bottle of Chardonnay in the closet. It's just, I literally haven't done it yet. I'm just openly doing it, or in my office. But in all seriousness, I am a big proponent on meditation. There are a lot of free apps out there that you can download, and it doesn't have to be 30 minutes long, because a lot of times we don't have that. Another technique, I'll go back to the app. There's an app called meditate.me. It's a free app you can download. It has a wide variety of different types of meditations. They're themed meditations. So whether it's calming meditation, a sleep meditation, there's a money manifestation meditations, which there's huge power behind that. So if you are really struggling of figuring out how you're going to put that next meal on the table, or you got your stimulus check and that's gone like that, and what are you going to do next? Putting that energy out there into the universe to power of positivity, or a calming meditation. It really does just kind of change your mindset and just shift the internal energy within your body. Another thing that I do recommend and do myself is journaling. Get it out of your head and out on paper. And if it's negative thoughts or non-encouraging thoughts, burn it. Get it out of your head and then burn it. It's also an exercise that you could do with your kids. If they're having a lot of frustrating thoughts because they're not able to be with their kids and their friends and their teachers, and they're sad, you could just do this exercise with them where it's just like, let's just put all those ugly feelings and that sadness out on paper, and then let's burn it. And then let's go have an ice cream sundae. Who doesn't want that? Don't put all the strict regiments of like you're needing to stick to meal plans and worried about the COVID, gaining the COVID-19. Like those are the kind of things that I'm telling people, because I'm doing that myself. I just find a good book, like personal development, or a book that you can escape in. Tell your children to do the same thing. Making sure that you're disconnecting from social media. Get outside, even if it's in your backyard, and sit out and have a picnic. Those kind of things help just shift that energy just a little bit.
That's outstanding and great sound advice. I think more people need to follow that. I think a lot of people run around with the sky is falling mentality and just bury themselves in their house, or they become the Dudley Do-Rights, where they're just, you're wrong if you go outside. How dare your kid go? How dare you cross your sidewalk and not wear a mask? Or how dare you do this? Or go to the store? We suffer. I see a lot of people who, because on one part of the country they're on a certain restriction, we all should be on that restriction. And I think over the coming 14 days, as the country comes out of this lockdown, this shelter in place, I think people are going to have to realize certain part of the country is locked down, and still, because they have obviously, they're dealing with COVID-19 more, but other places that have done their job have less density. We'll talk about our own state here. We flatten the curve and we have beautiful weather. This is a blessing for us. We want to be outside because the sun's out and we have beautiful places to go. I guess I'll leave you with one of the things I do want to touch on before we wrap. One thing that I've seen you, Lucie, do, besides being an amazing CEO for our company, LifeFlip Media, you are a great leader. You also are driven and you are a serial entrepreneur. You love to create businesses and you're really good at it. I've watched you create one over the last 6 months that even during record unemployment and people losing jobs, you became a director for an amazing company out of Utah. So I want you to talk about that because I want people who are at home, it should be an option that maybe your job doesn't exist right now and you don't know when you're able to go back to it. But there are small up and coming brands that you can make real dollars and you get to do stuff that is enjoyable and you're not peddling, a shake or something that makes you pretty or, I mean, actually what you do does make you pretty, but
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like everybody's got, some tchotchke that they're going to sell you. And this is different. Apparel is one of those cool things. And honestly, nobody's really wearing a full suit. I know I'm not.
No.
So you're wearing, you work for an amazing apparel company. So let's talk about that briefly. Kind of tell people, fill in what you're doing. And if they're interested, where they could go find out. Because I think creating opportunities for people in America to find maybe a side job while they wait for their job to come back. Because we honestly don't know. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, about 5 months ago, I came across this opportunity to work for this up and coming apparel brand called Zaya Active. It's only 3 years old, based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And what we are is an active and leisure wear apparel line that is comparable to higher end lines like Lululemon and Athleta at a fraction of the cost. And we are a direct sales company in the fact that I don't need to carry an inventory. I just host online parties and at the time in-home parties if I want to, or people can just go directly to my site and it ships from our warehouse out of Utah. We are based out of Utah, out of the United States and Canada. And there's only about 25,000 reps between those two areas. And it's been such a light in my life. And just based on the fact of, first of all, the leggings are amazing. Okay. I'm just going to tell you that much right now. I could go on and on about how awesome this activewear line is right now, just based on the fact that so many of us are working from home. And then you put on a pair of leggings that gives you an instant tummy tuck and lifts your booty. And like, you could just work out, go out, like the wicking away of the sweat, the joggers that are perfect for the office and for date night. I could go like on and on. But what's more important or even more satisfying is the sense of community and the fact that this company is completely debt-free and is giving back. Last month, they gave every single one of us anywhere from a 5 to a 10% stimulus bonus on our paychecks because they wanted to make sure that we were all going to be okay during this time. I sold more leggings and more activewear during a pandemic than since I've started. Already, I'm projected to meet, if not break, what I sold last month. People are shopping, people are buying, and people are joining us because you look around, you even go on your Facebook, what are people doing? They are hosting these parties with Roden & Fields, with Scentsy, Beachbody, all of these direct sale type companies that people are able to do from home because their companies are their full-time jobs. They sent them home or they had to close down. So network marketing and direct sales companies is where it's at right now. And these companies are flourishing. We paid out, I think it was just last month, like $4 million in commissions in 1 month, just selling leggings. Like for me, it's like a no-brainer. Yeah. And my team has, in the last week, I've signed on 4 reps who just want to do it on the side. just to supplement what's going on with their, jobs, and their jobs have slowed down. And it's a women-owned and ran company. So there's just a lot that I could totally share with everybody. And you get, you don't need an inventory. You can work this on your own time, and they're just all amazing. And I think that right, for me, it's really just put a fire back in my soul. And it coincides with my health and wellness business about moving your body and feeling confident in your body, because a lot of times, a lot of women do not like to move and work out because they don't feel comfortable in their own skin, and they can't find workout clothes that make them feel comfortable. And then I introduce them to Zaya, and I get so many messages. They're like, before, I never even wanted to go for a walk because I couldn't find a pair of leggings that made me feel comfortable and confident. And I've lost 5 pounds. I'm not saying the leggings do the workout for you, but if they make you feel comfortable and confident enough to move your body just a little bit, I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lucie, for sharing that insight. I think it's important that people realize that. And you touched on one thing, and then we're going to go. You talked about community. Absolutely. That's the one thing I've seen in Zaya, being around them right before we got locked down. We were all in Nashville together. Amazing team. I can't speak for that. I've met these folks from CEO down. They are amazing. They're very positive, uplifting. If you're looking for a brand to support, I highly recommend them. Any brand out of Utah that's American, they're doing their job, supporting these amazing women around the country that are they're all very happy, which
they all like
cool.
you.
Yeah, they're all good, and their gear is comfortable. I wear it and enjoy it. But you did say one thing that kind of tied in our guest that we had on Wednesday, Heather Monahan. We talked about Peloton, right? When you talk about community, and I know you and I and Maddie are avid Peloton riders, because there is that ability to high five each other, and you don't get to go see your cousin and your bestie down in Palm Desert, but at least you guys can ride together and compete. Mm-hmm. And it builds community, and you have these other people. So it's great that you touched that. We're going to have you back on, Lucie, very soon. Maybe we can get you on next Friday for Female Founders Friday. But before we go, tell folks, number one, how they can get a hold of you. And two, if they're interested in joining Zaya and learning more about it, where to go.
Well, they can, of course, follow me over on my Instagram, which is Lucie with an IE, not a Y, .e.mitchell. And then if they do want to reach out to me with regards to Zaya, I would just honestly go to luciemitchell.com, which is my website. And there is a tab there that you can shoot me a message. I will respond usually within 15, 20 minutes, and we can strike up a conversation that way.
Outstanding. Thank you, Lucie, so much for joining us today. You did a great job. I appreciate you and your insight and inspiring all these amazing women out there. I do see it on so go follow her on Instagram. I'm telling you, she's entertaining on her stories as someone who participates and sees her in them all the time. We're still trying to learn TikTok together. We still owe you all a TikTok. Look at those leggings. Come on. It's like the Beetlejuice leggings. I love it. That's what I'm naming them. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Thank you. So here we are. We're at the end. And I went over again, but we actually had that little lull in the middle. So don't feel bad we went over. Normally this is an hour show. Thank you guys again so much for your support this week. These first 3 episodes have just been amazing. My phone is buzzing nonstop with your guys' encouragement and motivation, and I love it. We have amazing guests for you next week. Let's talk about our guests on Monday. Monday, we're bringing you George Bryant to talk about marketing, how you can work at home and build your business or help your business grow. Small business leaders, you're not going to want to miss George Bryant. And 2, he's a Marine, so you definitely don't want to miss a combat badass Marine teaching you how to do marketing better. What better advice would you want? Then we have Joel Comm, you go look him up. He actually is famous for the iFart app that's been featured by Jimmy Kimmel and everybody there, but he is an amazing thought leader, motivational speaker, one of the funniest guys I know. We're going to kind of talk turkey and get his insight into what's going on in the world today. He's been just very controversial on social media, making people think and go outside that box, much like when we had Josh Phillip on yesterday. And my good buddy Shane Thorold will be on. Shane is it's like weird, we put Marines not on Thursdays, but my Marines go wherever they want. We have Shane Thorold is coming on talk about his business. He is helping entrepreneurs and taking veterans and anybody who's looking to transition into a different job. He's actually teaching them how to start their own business. And finally, we're wrapping up the show with the amazing Jordan Gelber will be on. Can't wait for Jordan to be on, to talk about what she's doing. Another amazing female entrepreneur, just kicking ass and taking names. So again, just like I said earlier at the top of the hour, if you would like to, you still have, I'm doing this just because it ends tomorrow and it's important to me. I love our first responders and our healthcare providers in New York. If you want to go check it out, head over to laughtersaveslives.org, hit the donate button, and you can still help get them more donations so they can go buy more N95 masks for the first responders and nurses and doctors in on Long Island and New York City. I think in Jersey too. Butch will correct me if I'm wrong. But make sure you go out there, laughtersavesliveslives.com. Hit that donate button. You're doing a great deal. And we'll learn more about Laughter Saves Lives on Thursday when we have their head of the dang show, the head of the operation will be on our show with us. We'll get some good laughs. He'll tell us a story. He's got an amazing one. He was part of Hazmat One in New York City Fire Department on 9/11. So he's got an amazing story to share. So that's what I have for you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart. God bless America.